All righty, it is district breakdown time. Jon Poorman is with us from the Houston Chronicle. We are talking lower classifications before next week we dive into 5A and 6A districts. And to start in 4A Division one of the things I was really interested about is, we have our teams in Region 3, but then out of nowhere, El Campo and Bay City, they got kind of tossed out to Region 4. So there's a chance that we have two teams that could possibly make it to the semifinals. And then I want to talk a little bit about Needville too. Just the year they had last year was fabulous, and can they build off of that for this year? Maybe talk a little bit about Houston ISD, the district they have there as well. Is there a team that may jump out at you in that?
Yeah, well, I'll start with Needville. As you mentioned, they had a great run last year. They were in a competitive district and, really showed, a lot of grit and determination and what they accomplished. A big part of that had to do with running back, Deshaun Burton. He rushed for over 2,400 yards and 36 touchdowns last year for this Needville team, and he's coming back next year as well. He was only a junior, so he's a dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands, and obviously was kind of the catalyst for that team. Yeah, as far as the split between regions and stuff, it not super surprising considering El Campo and Bay City are really far on the over there on the southwest side of the Houston area. But it definitely adds an intriguing element to get a couple of teams there in a different region, and we'll see what they can do. Obviously, those are two programs that have had some recent success as well, so we'll see what happens. As far as Houston ISD goes, going to be really interesting, I think. Worthing and Yates had both had great seasons last year. Those teams combined for over 1,000 yards of offense in their district championship game matchup, which Worthing won. But both of those teams, with quarterbacks Davion Edward at Worthing and Jaquan Brandon at Yates, both of those dynamic playmakers for those offenses at quarterback are now graduated. So it'll be interesting to see how those teams reload there in Houston ISD.
Speaking about graduation, how much did is graduation going to hurt Belleville, the team that made it all the way to the state final game, touchdown short of having that thing tied up? I know we were going to talk about DJ Sanders, but did the graduation take away from that crazy offense they ran, and do they have pieces that can fill that up?
Yeah, certainly, they lost some key pieces, but I really think that this is going to be a really strong team once again. Dede Murray is back. He rushed for over 2,000 yards and 36 touchdowns. And then Corian Hood, who rushed for over 1,600 yards and 25 touchdowns. Obviously, Sam Hernicki is gone. He was kind of the third guy there out of the two out of the three top guys are returning with that rushing attack. So that's a lot of offense that's coming back. And then of course on the defensive side of the ball they lose some key pieces. Connor Gaines, a really good linebacker, graduated, but Corey Richardson, a defensive lineman, is gone as well, who had 15 sacks last year. But DJ Sanders there, as you mentioned, four-star offensive lineman, 115 tackles and 15 sacks last season. As long as he's kind of wrecking the game in the trenches, I think they're going to be okay. And they'll have some players to step up as well. So yeah, really bullish on Belleville again, possibly making another deep run, especially with Murray and Sanders back leading both sides of the ball. Those were their two best players last year and will be once again.
And he played DD played solid secondary for him as well.
Mhm.
Let's talk about a little 3A action, because there's two Big 12 quarterbacks down there, with Schobel over at Columbus and Lloyd Jones over at Hitchcock. Those guys always have a heck of a game in the middle of the season. What do you think about their chances? Can they push through and get even a little further in the playoffs this year?
Yeah, this has got to be the heyday for Greater Houston 3A football. I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, two Big 12 quarterback recruits there. And start with Hitchcock coming off their second consecutive basketball state championship. pretty much all of those guys play football as well. But as you mentioned, the quarterback Lloyd Jones III, a Texas Tech commit, a big sturdy kid with a strong arm. Can also make some plays with his legs as well. He's hard to tackle, hard to bring down. And then Kelshawn Johnson, the 4-star, I guess receiver slash athlete slash wherever you need him on the field, playmaker. He's a 4-star guy as well, and just a really talented player. He's a speedster. He's a really talented track athlete as well. So having those guys back on that offense is going to be scary, dangerous. Obviously they lose a guy like Damian McDaniel, who was so good for them on both sides of the ball, but they'll have plenty of talent to be competitive here in their region. And then over at Columbus, Adam Schobel, the Baylor commit, slinging the rock around under his dad's direction, Matt Schobel there at Columbus, the head coach. And, he's had, I think he's got 94 career touchdowns over the last 3 years now. So he certainly will lead the way for that offense once again. I expect both of those teams to really push and try to make deep playoff runs. 3A football in Houston, it's not usually a big topic of conversation just because there aren't that many teams that we claim in the area. But yeah, I mean, these two programs the last few years have really stepped up and delivered some big time teams.
Yeah, those two are going to be something else, and I'm hoping they can make it a little bit further than 3 rounds, maybe 4 or 5 rounds, see if they can possibly make it up to January. You don't know. It could be a challenge, and we start going into individual districts next week. We start off with the doozy because we're going to go into 8-5A Division II with the defending state champs at Port Neches Groves is in that one. Huntsville made a heck of a run. Plus Lake Creek, we all talk about Ty Byers. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that next week, but we will definitely be talking about it. Jon, I appreciate you joining us this week, and we will talk to you next week, my man.
All right, sounds good.